This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello there, welcome to this edition of Global Business Africa. In the course of the hour, we'll run through the business news stories you need to know about from the continent and beyond. But first, a quick update on the markets. Now, this is the third consecutive decline for the top 40 over at the JSE. The index shed over 1,000 points, down 1.6% today. Mining majors accounting for the bulk of that decline. BHP, Anglo-American Platinum and Impala Platinum falling by anywhere between 2 to 5.5%. Now, the indices in South Africa, Nigeria and Cairo all positive on a year-to-date basis. Essentially, they're set to close at that level by the end of the year, by around 5% in the west and the north, by over 17% in South Africa. The NSE 20 over in Kenya is negative on a year-to-date basis, down at least 0.1%. Here's what's coming up tonight. South Africa's Eskom starts its restructuring by separating its transmission division. Zimbabwe's central bank considers to set up or not set up its own digital currency. And we'll tell you about Tunisia's helping hand for its handicraft sector as it navigates the pandemic. Our starting point at this hour is South Africa, where the power utility Eskom says it has executed the separation of its transmission division subject to certain conditions. Now, that's pretty much in line with an end December deadline set in a restructuring plan. Back in 2019, President Cyril Ramaphosa said that the debt-laden utility would be split into 3 divisions, each focusing on generation, transmission and distribution. Now, Eskom has relied heavily on government bailouts and frequently does implement nationwide power cuts. Under the plan, the utility's generation and transmission units had to be separated by the end of December 2021 and the distribution division out by December 2022. Let's dig into the details of this particular story. Angelo Coppola joins us now live from Johannesburg. So, Angelo, let's start with some context here. Walk us through the rationale for the split, but also the timing of that split. Why split off the generation and transmission functions first in 2021 and then distribution much later?
Well, Ramah, it's got everything to do with getting those IPPs, the new renewable energy IPPs, on board and putting them into a tightly run generation business, keeping them focused there, keeping them away from the coal-fired power stations. And it's the only focus that this unit is going to have, and it's about providing a good price for power and consistency. Their challenge, of course, is that many of the previous bid window winners have been announced, and the shortlist for those emergency power supplies are all sorted and almost finalized, with the pricing tied in contractually, so there's an issue there. Part of the rationale is also about staying out of the political discussion and debate around providing free power to the poor and the destitute in the country. Eskom's outstanding debt from municipalities, of course, as you know, is in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's not coming down very much, although there was some some drop just recently announced last week. Some analysts are saying, though, that the separation could see government writing off some or all of the debt to give generation at least a new start. Generation, of course, and transmission are intertwined, and it's all about using the existing grid to provide consistent power, which will allow the other 2 units to restore faith in the operations and keep the creditors and bondholders happy. Distribution will, of course, focus on building new networks and adding new players as they come online. For distribution, it's all about the future of the grid for those new entrants and about building and giving them access to that new grid as it develops over time, Raman.
Indeed. So Eskom, of course, had, based on the last half-year results that we saw, around $24.3 billion in debt by the end of September. So in doing this split, will the debt also essentially also get split among the 3 different enterprises?
Well, Caleb Kasim, the CFO there, was very clear on this point at the briefing last week. The majority of that debt pile of 392 odd million rand in dollars will follow the generation unit because it was created by the power stations and provided to consumers, including those municipalities who are also the largest in arrears clients at the moment. The generation business will also have the wherewithal to settle that debt a lot quicker than the other 2 units when they separate, because they have control of the production of power and are more likely to make the most money in this value chain if it all goes according to plan. Ramah.
As part of the split, though, will Eskom therefore, at least in future, also have to raise capital for the other three enterprises? I mean, the generation side of it will probably have to raise more capital for the power plants that they're building in the future as they replace and retire these coal power stations. But what about the transmission and distribution side?
Well, look, that's the million-dollar question at the moment. Kasim, the CFO, says that the group has raised a portion of its capital requirements in the bond market already. That's for 2021. For the rest of the year, and also for part of 2022, and it's around 40% that they've raised for next year. We understand that government will probably also most likely provide some bridging finance, and the potential tariff increase that they're trying to get now should give them, if they get the full increase, around 20% or more than they've been earning this year. Of course, this was probably all discussed at the creditors meeting that was held last week. An analyst I spoke to today says that the separation won't happen until Eskom has sorted out the majority of those offshore bondholders. According to him, there's no reason for them, that's the offshore bondholders, to release collateral in any other non-generation assets. He went on to say that the unbundling without the full approval of all the bondholders, that's the internal and external bondholders, would be a breach of covenant. And you can't see 100% of them all agreeing to this latest separation either, Ramah.
Indeed, that's going to be an interesting puzzle for them to solve. One last question for you, Angelo. Based on the presentation that they had last week, I believe, power plant availability continued to fall under 66% in the first half of the fiscal year, which ends in September. Unplanned outages this year have been way higher than they were in 2020. What's causing that trend?
Well, Ramah, as you know, most of that fleet is past its sell-by date, quite simply. Crews spend most of their time maintaining plant to a plan, which is obviously then thrown into disarray when a piece of equipment breaks down, or nature plays a cruel hand and jams up a coal conveyor belt, for example, or it rains too heavily and coal gets wet. And all means that the maintenance plans are then pushed to the back burner to fix the immediate problem and get the units back online as quickly as they can do. The problem is that generally there are more units down due to breakages, faults, or routine maintenance than there are operational units. There's also some untested allegation that sabotage might be at play in some of the breakdowns, but we haven't seen or heard of anyone being arrested or tried in court or found guilty just yet, Ramah.
All right, then we'll leave it there for the time being and see exactly how these power sector reforms play out. Angela Gopala there live in Johannesburg. Now, we're still in the country. South Africa has received its first shipment of liquefied natural gas from the Netherlands. A local producer, DNG Energy, is investing some $5 billion in a plant that will allow it to handle bulk LNG imports. As the country tries to wean itself off using coal, fuels with comparatively low emissions, like LNG, are getting a lot more attention. Sumitra Naidu has that story.
Liquefied natural gas is not only a cleaner energy source, but also a cheaper alternative to fossil fuels.
Without energy, there's no growth. If you bring energy that is cost effective, that is reliable, that is sustainable, it only means that people will have the confidence of saying, I can invest in a factory, I can invest in that project. It allows the sentiment to change. And when people start consuming the product, and it actually is a product that is beneficial for their bottom line, then more and more businesses get generated because of the multiplier effect of people being in the economy.
DNG is a 100% black-owned energy infrastructure company in South Africa. It has been working on this deal for several years. It also had a power supply bid in for Eskom earlier this year, but lost to Car Power. DNG is disputing the win.
DNG Power is taking up the call from our president to say that you can produce up to 100 megawatts for various customers. We have taken that call. We're starting to do it, and we want to be part of the solution. So we are there to support Eskom in the best way possible.
In the meantime, liquefied natural gas is being delivered to commercial customers in the industrial, transport, marine and power sectors in South Africa.
The benefit is reliability, it is cost effectiveness, it is sustainability. So for us, having invested through these many years in terms of having the right infrastructure for us to get to this position, it means that we become that reliable fuel partner for you. It fits into government policy because our policy is to have net zero carbon emissions by, let's say, 2050.
It's a different mindset, it's a different way of energy. We have a vision of a sustainable way of transport and to make mobility as sustainable as possible. We do expect the success of our customers. We know that this is a much cleaner source of energy, so we expect that they will have much more fuel economy on their buses and trucks. We also expect them to have a much cleaner energy on their fleets. They will contribute to a better environment for the whole country.
This development catalyzes the growth of a new gas economy in South Africa and will create much needed jobs. As a more cleaner fuel and a more sustainable fuel, liquefied natural gas will also help South Africa transition away from fossil fuels. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Zimbabwe's central bank has ruled out recognizing cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum as legal tender, but it is exploring the option of going for a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, instead. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, in fact, is planning to send a team to Nigeria to learn from the West African nation's experience in rolling out the continent's first digital currency, the e-Naira, as Farai Mukutuya now explains from Harare.
Zimbabwean monetary authorities' aversion to cryptocurrency is well documented. In 2018, they shut down the country's first Bitcoin exchange and banned cryptocurrency trading. The central bank, which has repeatedly said it does not trust cryptocurrency, is mulling a Zimbabwean e-dollar instead. The move follows several central banks that are working on rolling out a central bank digital currency, CBDC. That would give authorities here the control they don't have over cryptocurrencies.
The one thing about cryptocurrency, especially the blockchain, is that it's decentralized. Decentralized meaning that it's controlled by thousands of nodes, which are all over the place. So if you want to create more Bitcoin, you literally have to coordinate with 1 million nodes at the same time to make that decision. But with a CBDC, central bank digital currency, they still remain control, and if they want to increase the supply or decrease the supply, it's still centralized.
Authorities will hope that the adoption of this digital currency will be quick and easy in an economy where the bulk of transactions are already being done electronically. Due to persistent cash shortages, more than 80% of payments here are done electronically. If more countries adopt digital currencies, that may help facilitate direct payments between nations and help Zimbabwe circumvent Western-imposed sanctions that have prevented payments to and from the country, as the funds have to be routed through the United States.
Right now, if you want to make an RTGS payment to South Africa, you can't, because we are still on that Bretton Woods system. So now when we digitalize and we're now using a digital currency, we can make RTGS payments literally overnight. So I think it's a good thing. But as long as it's managed correctly, that's the only thing we're advocating for.
In the past, Zimbabwe's central bank has been accused of fueling money supply by printing money. Farai Mukutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
All right, so let's make some run through corporate headlines. Starting in the world of mining, Anglo-American Platinum has entered into a sales and purchase agreement to sell its 100% of its stake, in Bokoni Platinum Holdings to African Rainbow Minerals in South Africa. Anglo-American holds a 49% stake in the mine, and its joint venture partner, Atlas Resources Corporation, has a 51% stake. That transaction is expected to be wrapped up in 2022. It will include employees and local communities in the new ownership structure. The investment firm Brait, it's a major investor in Premier Foods and the health club chain Virgin Active in South Africa, has raised nearly $200 million through a convertible bond offer to refinance its debt. Now, the firm first announced the rights offer in November, outlining that the proceeds would be used to refinance a part of its existing debt facility and also improve company liquidity. The announcement of a second rights offer in fewer than 2 years caused the Brait share price to nosedive by over 10% to about 26 rand cents per share. The world's first ever text message is set to be auctioned off as a non-fungible token, and it's set to sell for a fairly large sum. Now, the text message simply reads, "Merry Christmas," rather appropriately at this point in time. It was sent from an Orbitel 901 handset back in December 1992. 10 points if you know what handset that is. Vodafone also are now selling a virtual replica of the text as an exclusive NFT that will be available to buy in Ether cryptocurrency. And the UK Supreme Court has ruled that a dispute over who controls 31 tons of Venezuelan gold deposited with the Bank of England should be heard again by a lower court. The judges add that the commercial court should look at whether the rulings by the Venezuelan Supreme Court should apply in deciding this long-running case which pits President Nicolas Maduro against the opposition government of Juan Guaido. That's a run through your company headlines. You're watching Global Business Africa. Time for a short break. Here's what's coming up next. Pests and diseases are threatening Uganda's coffee as the crop nears its peak season. And a Kenyan startup, Wowzy, has secured $2 million to expand the reach of its influencer marketing platform. The details coming up next.
So this is it. I'm just about to be shot.
Tents here, bottles are being thrown. As they do so, we
there are
have
about 3 critical bridges here in Malawi. That's one of them. We're going to cross that bridge.
As you can see behind me, police forces
who are replying with gas. Gas just came in.
Gas, so it's all begun now.
Divisions leading the charge into West Mosul have brought us here.
Just got to be careful here with some gunshots.
This is where most of the fighting has been concentrated.
This is the front line now after 9 days of fighting.
We're about 2 to 3 kilometers from the front
within clear
line.
view of this front line position.
There's more to this place than just glorious landscapes. There's more to it than just, say, Table Mountain or glorious, endless salt flats. There's more to it than countries that are home to some of the deepest mines in the world. There is so much more to this place, even if it is home to some of the finest diamonds on the planet. It is the sheer diversity of the people who call Southern Africa home and the relentless drive to make it a better place that make it so special. And we know that because this too is home. No one knows Southern Africa like we do. CGTN. See the difference. Welcome back. Let's head over to one of the continent's biggest producers of coffee, Uganda. Coffee farmers over there are concerned about the growing threat of pests and diseases on their plantations. Now, these diseases are coming at a time when Uganda's coffee industry is quite literally at its peak. Farmers are now worried that they could lose out on the high coffee prices in the international market. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga filed this report.
Christopher Magara is a coffee farmer in central Uganda. But a routine check on his farm shows that the plants are affected by pests and diseases.
Previously, they were being attacked by this disease now, so we need to improve the garden. So I'm going to replace all the good bad tree, the old tree with the new planting.
Scientists confirm that the plants are being affected by leaf rust and coffee berry disease.
These are fungal diseases. They normally like very high humid areas, and they also, especially for the rust, it likes the high temperature areas. So when we are having a lot of rains and the temperatures are quite high, then you will find that the coffee leaf rust becomes more prevalent.
But a solution is in the offing, replacing the old coffee trees with disease-resistant plants. Scientists at this research institute are developing new coffee varieties that are resistant to pests and diseases. But in the meantime, they are encouraging farmers to use recommended pesticides and fungicides to keep their plants healthy. But as the farmers apply these remedies, they are also asking for more technical support.
People need to be educated about the use of fertilizers, the agrochemicals.
Latest figures from the Uganda Coffee Development Authority show that the country earned close to $630 million this year, compared to about $512 million last year. Uganda's target is to produce more than 20 million bags by 2025. and farmers like Magara are hoping to play a bigger part of this production. Hilara Isga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
New vehicle sales in South Africa have exceeded expectations this year, but it does appear that sales might decline in 2022 in line with the poorer performance that's forecast for South Africa's economy. Angela Coppola explores why.
The auto sector has weathered the storm of the first year of the pandemic in 2020 with just under 390,000 units sold. Projections point to 410,000 units being sold by the end of 2021. It's not been plain sailing as the local sector has faced global challenges, like the shortage of semiconductors.
And that's had a huge impact as well on manufacturers at different levels. So that certainly has put some challenges in front of the industry that we've had to navigate our way through. But I think off the back of strong GDP recovery, and that is really a spillover or pent-up demand from 2020, we've seen good industry growth coming through in the South African auto industry.
The growth hasn't happened in isolation. The auto sector has been nurtured over several decades with government incentives and pro-growth policies which have led to hundreds of millions of dollars of investments from auto manufacturers.
The policy stability, the policy coherence has translated into those investments, and those investments are bringing important contributions to production, to employment, to fiscal reflux, and to export performance from those entities.
Expectations for 2022 are a little muted, with a 1.8% growth rate expected for the South African economy. And this will impact the auto sector, analysts say.
We still anticipate that we're going to see growth above that in the auto sector. And I think, that's also driven a lot by new vehicle activity. And I think if you look across all of the members of NAMSA, in spite of all the economic challenges that we've seen taking place, the investment in new models, both imported and domestically produced, has been, remarkable.
With local demand a little muted in 2022, attention is turned to the African Continental Free Trade Area. The original equipment manufacturers have had detailed discussions with the African Union.
Very good progress has been made around what the auto sector on the continent could actually look like. Very detailed and engaging discussions happening in terms of what does it look like from originating content, how do we unlock opportunities for goods and services to flow freely across the African continent, and in particular, how do we structure a African auto sector that won't necessarily see production in every single country, but there will be components manufactured in one country, moving to another country, but creating and spreading the economic positive impact of an auto sector in Africa.
The auto sector incentive policy has long been held as a shining light, but one wonders why it hasn't been emulated in other industry sectors. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
All right, then let's get back into the world of startups. One such firm, this one from Kenya, called Wowzy, says it secured $2 million in funding in a seed round to expand the reach of its influencer marketing platform. Now, the company aims to tap the increasing use of social media across the continent. That's been driven by proliferation of smartphones and a lot better internet penetration too. This $2 million seed funding round comes after previously an announced one of $1.2 million in pre-seed funding. So the total amount raised so far is $3.2 million. Whilst it plans to use this investment to set up operations in 3 new markets, Ghana, Nigeria and South Africa. It's looking for growth opportunities effectively beyond its current market of Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania.
We see more and more creators being able to get a chance and earn. Our mission is to create 1 million jobs in Africa. So that's something that we look at very keenly as a number that we track to make sure that we're contributing to the future of work.
Wowzy is primarily building the infrastructure to connect people, connect all types of individuals to brands, to development agencies, to SMEs, to individual businesses in a way that they can earn a living. So one of the jobs that we've got on the platform today is primarily serving the creator economy. And we see the creator economy beyond just celebrities. On Wowzy, we have thousands of celebrities who also participate in campaign and lead.
All right, then, so let's explore where the business goes from here. Brian McGinney is the CEO and co-founder of Wowzy, joins us now live on the program. Brian, good to see you on the program. So the business has been described as one that transforms social media users into brand influencers. For someone who's not familiar with what Wowsy does, tell us exactly how this happens.
Thank you for having me on the show, Ramah. So yes, pretty much today, everybody can be an influencer, right from the border driver to the CEO and the celebrities. And how the platform works, if you think of influencer marketing, was a very painstaking process before. So having to manually search, reach out, negotiate, and payments is a problem. A lot of these mundane tasks are now automated through the platform, making it much easier for brands, marketing agencies, SMEs, as well as development agencies to create campaigns seamlessly. But at the same time, any person with a smartphone can download the app, sign up, set their preferences and their payment details, and be able to receive gigs. So, the same campaign that would be running for Netflix, for Safaricom, or such a brand, now a taxi driver can access such a campaign, and this before the technology of Wowsy was not possible.
So the contracts for all of these influencers, because I know you grade them based in part also on the size of the audiences they have. You've got what is that? So nano influencers, micro influencers, and so on and so forth. So the contracts are standardized across the board.
Yes, and also very niche as well. As you've correctly mentioned, we do have 5 categories. Nanos, which pretty much forms every single normal individual who the trust levels at this stage are very high. It's people who are followed by their friends, their family, their close business acquaintances, right up to celebrities. But at the same time, on Wowsy, we are building very unique communities, and that's where a lot of influence happens. So on Wowsy, a brand can leverage a community of moms, middle-class moms, of students, of doctors, celebrities, musicians. So these very unique communities are very powerful for brands as well.
That's an interesting one, because when you think about nano influencers, at least I'm thinking about this from the traditional ad agency space. When you're dealing with someone who's got 200 followers here, 300 followers there, for you to effectively scale a campaign across all those people would require a ton of work. Is the return on investment worth it?
Yeah, it definitely would require a ton of work. We've made that super easy. Something that would probably take a team of 5 people to execute and manage a campaign over 2 months can now be done in 15 minutes with a few clicks. So yes, definitely we've run campaigns that include up to 5,000, sometimes above that, different individuals across the country, in different regions at the same time, and still maintaining a very high level of quality. And only scalable technology can support such massive campaigns. And if you think about it, how can you have 1,000 moms talk about how they're including Coca-Cola, or the families enjoying Coca-Cola over the Christmas holidays at the same time? It's a massive headache and was pretty much impossible. But today it's something that's very easy and is providing a lot of ROI to different businesses and brands. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the other elephant in the room, because when it comes to these sort of digital influencer marketing campaigns, we often run into this complaint about people paying for views or paying for clicks and so on and so forth. How do you deal with that particular problem? Because if it comes down to measuring the impact that these campaigns are having, if you have paid for clicks or paid for views, that obviously skews the results of the campaigns that you're carrying out.
Yes, definitely. And if you look at Wowsy, the majority of our campaigns, actually 80% of the campaigns and the jobs that are being offered on the Wowsy platform go to nano influencers. And these are very authentic. This is someone who's just being followed by their friends, their family. They would stay very authentic to their normal message. And that ability to leverage real humans, and they can only talk about products and brands that they already celebrate. If you think about it, Ramah, probably at some point you might have gone to a restaurant and taken a photo of your meal and put it on Instagram. And a few days later, you see some of your friends at the restaurant. So that same kind of influence. And if you look at it, Wowsy is primarily organizing word of mouth and making it very easy for brands to both push messages to their communities and at the same time pull insights, which is providing really good ROI. But that authenticity is really maintained at that nano level, where it's the real person followed by just a few of his real friends, but at scale.
All right. So you've raised this $2 million now. You're essentially trying to expand into Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. What's your competitive edge going into those markets based on your operations that you've had so far in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania?
Yes, definitely. You know, we've got a mission to create 1 million jobs across Africa, and different types of jobs. Today, you could be getting a campaign as a creator to participate, but tomorrow you're participating in a consumer insights campaign, and we will add up different types of unique jobs for different communities. But as we enter these new markets, we're looking to leverage on the core platform. We've got world-class technology. We're becoming really good at building these very unique communities. If you think about it, a lot of influence actually happens offline, and we're building that infrastructure to connect this capacity and opportunity. And last but not least, brands in these new markets will be able now to leverage influencer marketing much faster, much cheaper, with much more ROI. And very excited for 2022 as it comes down.
All right. Well, let's see how this plays out in those 3 markets. Looking forward to seeing the data that comes out of there. Brian McGinney there from Mauzi, an influencer marketing platform. Time for a short break on Global Business Africa. Here's what's coming up next. China stepping up efforts to slow down the rapid appreciation of the yuan. And we'll take a look at the business of making and monetizing mobile stickers when we return.
Change is on the horizon. Through the shifting of time, Africa's emerging tech landscape is creating new channels.
There's a hunger for local African content globally.
Shaped by innovation, carved out by a new generation of digital entrepreneurs, sculpted by a mobile revolution, and trickling down to the most remote corners of the continent. TechSpot is seeking out the new concepts in technology, disrupting Africa's traditional sectors.
You're watching breaking news on CGTN.
Welcome to the world today on CGTN.
Welcome back to the program. Let's run through some of the stories making your headlines at this hour. Rebel Tigrayan forces say they have completed their withdrawal from the Amhara and Afar regions of Ethiopia. That's according to a spokesperson for the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the party that controls the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia. The withdrawal comes after major territorial gains by the Ethiopian military. It is a step towards a possible ceasefire in this 13-month war between the Tigrayan forces on one hand and the federal government of Ethiopia on the other. Up north in Libya, a section of presidential candidates say they expect the polls to be delayed. They want Libya's High National Election Commission to explain the delays after the electoral body postponed the release of the list of presidential candidates. Now, the body has not yet declared whether the polls, which are set to take place this Friday, the 24th of December, will be postponed. 30 people have been killed by gunmen in Nigeria's northwestern state of Kaduna. The gunmen also burnt cars, houses and agricultural produce in various farms. And finally, the Egyptian Health Ministry has confirmed the nation's first 3 cases of COVID linked to the Omicron variant. All 3 are from inbound travelers. Egypt has been stepping up its viral containment measures, particularly at airports, in an attempt to contain this new variant of SARS-CoV-2. That's a run through your headlines. Into the world of currencies now. Authorities in China have stepped up their efforts to slow down the rapid appreciation in the yuan by granting fresh quotas worth $3.5 billion under a key outbound investment scheme. The State Administration of Foreign Exchange says that the fresh quotas are designed to encourage outbound investments by one bank and 4 fund managers under the Qualified Domestic Institutional Investor Program. Zhang Shixuan finds out how the yuan appreciation has been impacting small and micro-sized firms.
With the global economy gradually recovering from COVID-19's outbreak last year, China's exporters have been receiving increasing orders. Li Jin has seen his suitcase orders almost doubling from 2 years ago. But the continuous appreciation of the renminbi during the past year has been eating up his profits.
I never expected the fluctuation could be this severe. Just because of the exchange rate fluctuation, my profits are gone.
This suitcase had its price confirmed to a European client on July 8th, with the quote valid until December 8th. But during those 5 months, the value of the renminbi has risen 15 basis points. That means that for each suitcase Li sold, he lost 2 yuan on the currency exchange, half of the profit on the sale. The exchange rate broke 6.35 yuan per US dollar on December 8th, its highest since May 2018. Soon after that, the central bank announced a rise in the reserve requirement ratio for foreign currency deposits by 2 percentage points. This was the second time the central bank has raised the reserve requirement ratio for foreign currency deposits this year, a measure to rein in the appreciation pressure of the renminbi. The move may slow the currency's rise in the short term, but generally the renminbi is still retaining its reputation as a currency of rising value, and that's to say it will be hard to slow its possible outperformance in 2022.
The gain for this year is quite domestic. What we see is the most is driven by the foreign inflows into the China stocks and the bonds market. The global market sentiment these few weeks is also pretty resilient, even as the Federal Reserve raised the interest rate. So that will push the safe haven assets dollar lower in a softer pace. Different central banks give the different directions in the European countries. So that probably is also the trend for next year. If the policy divergence among the different countries start to emerge and also intensify, that probably will increase the FX volatilities.
And so Zhu says it's important for trading firms, especially small and micro-sized exporters, to plan ahead and take action in advance to avoid the potential risks. This Shanghai-based accounting firm has 600 clients and says 10% of them are small and micro-sized trading firms. It's been offering specific solutions for them to avoid losses brought about by fluctuating exchange rates, including cross-border yuan settlement.
For those who are using forward foreign currency letter of credit, we would suggest them to use discount or full freight instead. It will entail a small amount of bank service fee, but you can get the foreign currency to convert it to RMB instantaneously. And for those who are registered in the free trade zones, we're happy to compare the differences between the onshore and offshore RMB against the foreign currencies. Lastly, we would suggest for the firms who engage both in importation and exportations to use one single foreign currencies whenever possible to hedge the forex risk.
Chen does say, however, that many of their clients are now quite experienced in dealing with the situation of rapidly changing exchange rates. It sounds like they better be. Zhang Shixuan, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
A Democratic Senator, Joe Manchin, says he will not support a major social spending plan, effectively throwing the US President Joe Biden's $2 trillion flagship law into jeopardy. The West Virginia senator's announcement has sparked fresh questions, many of them at that, over passing voting rights legislation and potentially other significant bills that will require his vote in a Senate that's split 50-50.
In all of my years of public service, and I've been around for a long time, I've never seen anything like this. The President of the United States has addressed the House Democratic Caucus twice recently to urge action on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which sometimes we refer to as the BIF bill. Last week, the Speaker Pelosi urged the importance of voting. Hey, let me say one thing. I'm not going to negotiate in public on this because I've been dealing in good faith, and I will continue to deal in good faith with all of my colleagues on both sides. It's time to pass the bill and quit playing games.
Japan's parliament on Monday approved the first extra budget of the 2021 fiscal year with a record spending of $317 billion. Now, the budget effectively earmarks funds for dealing with COVID-19, including securing vaccines and drugs, but it also features cash payouts for families with children and funds for the promotion of tourism. It's the largest supplementary budget that the government has ever implemented. Japan's government issued 3 extra supplementary budgets, if you will, in the last fiscal year. The extra budget will be partly financed by about $194 billion worth of additional government bonds, which will be issued in the current fiscal year. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said that his first supplementary budget is aimed at restoring the COVID-affected economy and achieving a virtuous cycle of growth and wealth distribution while fixing the country's public finances in the long run. Israel's health ministry is recommending adding the United States, Canada and several European countries to its red list. That proposed travel restriction comes as the UK is reporting a surge in Omicron-linked cases and as the Netherlands enters a period of strict emergency measures. Here's Nawija Barkil with the details from London.
For a lot of Europe, this is a familiar feeling. Colder winter weather and COVID-19 wreaking havoc, forcing governments, they say, to bring in stronger measures to fight back. Germany's banning most travellers from the UK from Monday amid fears around imported cases. Meanwhile, protesters clashed with police in Frankfurt this weekend, with demonstrations taking place in the city of Düsseldorf too, against the use of mandatory vaccinations for some workers. In Italy, there were similar scenes in Turin and in the Spanish city of Barcelona.
I am not against vaccines, and I am not a denier. Yes, I am strongly opposed to the restrictions and the curbs on our freedoms that we have been suffering from since the pandemic began 2 years ago. The ends do not justify the means.
Clashes with COVID protesters injured a number of police officers in London near the official residence of the Prime Minister Boris Johnson. The pressure on him is growing again after his Brexit minister resigned, partly over Johnson's handling of the pandemic. London's now officially on high alert, with surging cases and the highest rate of infection, after more than 26,000 new cases were reported there on Saturday. The wider UK is the worst affected in Europe at the moment, with Omicron cases tripling in the same 24-hour period.
We are watching the data, discussing it with our scientists and our best advisors almost on an hourly basis. And we will monitor that very carefully. We will keep the situation under review.
Scientists advising the government warned there could be around 3,000 people a day in hospitals with COVID within a few weeks, unless tougher measures are taken. Across the continent of Europe, the spread of Omicron and its speed are causing alarm. For many, this will be another holiday season with limits on social life at one of the most festive times of year. Nawija Barkil, CGTN, London.
On to the United States, where power outages are becoming more of a problem, and it's being made worse by a combination of climate change on one hand, but also aging infrastructure that's not really getting invested in on the other. Now, the average home went without power for 8 hours last year. That's double the number 5 years ago. West Virginia has one of the least reliable grids, even as people's utility bills keep rising. Caroline Malone has more.
This West Virginia non-profit is rising above the rest to get power in a state with a relatively expensive and unreliable electricity system. Solar panels are helping the River House, which has a community arts and music program, to get cheaper utility bills, paving the way for co-founder Tim Reese to save money and give more back.
The solar panels themselves generate enough electricity to save somewhere between 25 and 30% of our electrical costs.
The average electricity bill has risen more in West Virginia than in any other state, from about $55 a month in 2016 to $139 a month this year. And it's been ranked consistently as last out of 50 states for reliability, with the most power cuts outside of major weather events.
Our supply is good when it's working, and not so good when it's off.
Part of the problem is high winds, which knock down trees that fall onto power lines. Companies like First Energy are taking a proactive approach, trimming vegetation around power lines. On this unusually hot and sunny December day in West Virginia, It's easy to see how alternative energy supplies, such as from solar panels, can offer a cheaper and more reliable way to get electricity. But the weather here and across the United States is often unpredictable. There was a high here today of 22 degrees Celsius in Hampshire County. On this day last year, it was snowing and much colder. Major weather events in other parts of the US, such as the recent tornadoes in Kentucky or the Texas winter crisis, also continue to leave people without power for weeks. Energy experts say there's a need for infrastructure to be built for the weather of the future.
You have climate change that's impacting the built infrastructure that we have. We don't have the built infrastructure for the changes that we're already seeing.
In West Virginia, coal-fired electric power plants account for 91% of the state's electricity net generation.
West Virginia has a coal culture, and power generation has always been pretty cheap here. But as costs rise, solar panels all of a sudden look more affordable.
At the end of another stunning West Virginia day, more people are planning for tomorrow, with energy options that spare them power cuts and save money. Caroline Malone, Hampshire County, West Virginia.
Now, competition is wrapped up in southwest China's Chengdu to promote the exchange of technical skills. It's a 5-day event held both online and in person. It involved young participants from 4 cities: Guangzhou, Hong Kong, Macau and Chengdu. Wang Qingcheng now reports.
A testing platform for China's younger generation to improve their technical skills. The 11th Youth Skills Competition has 5 different event categories, including commodity display, cybersecurity and mobile robotics.
We have few opportunities to work with mobile robots in school, so we have to learn about it in our spare time. I'm very grateful that the government provides this training platform. I feel honored to take part in this event.
At the competition, robots are programmed and tested to ensure consistent performance. Mobile robotics is a fast-evolving field with applications in a diverse number of industries. This event simulates a scenario providing a medical service inside a hospital. Contestants must be familiar with computer programming to ensure the robot is designed for its intended application. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the competitors could not all travel to the host city Chengdu. Instead, the event was live-streamed from the 4 cities involved. More than 3 million people watched online.
This competition gives me opportunity to communicate with fellow competitors from different cities. It has also helped cultivate skills like teamwork and mutual support between teammates.
In this sugar art show, participants compete for quality and innovation.
The competition is 5 hours long, but previously my training was over 8 hours. I'm very satisfied that I can complete my project today. I'm more than satisfied.
The competition takes place as Macau marks the 22nd anniversary of its return to China. This exchange of technical know-how has deepened that bond further.
We have always seen that our motherland is developing very fast. Many of our opportunities and development are brought by the motherland. I hope we have more chances to progress and study there in the future.
A total of 64 contestants from Guangzhou, Hong Kong, Macau and Chengdu have taken part in the competition. The biennial event was launched in 1999 with the role of host rotating among the 4 cities. With the competition at an end in Chengdu, Guangzhou looks ahead to hosting the next one. Meng Qingsheng, CGTN, Chengdu, Sichuan Province.
If you're a regular WeChat user or user really of any other chat app, Telegram, WhatsApp, that sort of thing, chances are you also happen to be using and collecting stickers quite a bit. Now, smartphone use, of course, has famously changed the way we communicate, adding pictures and animations and emojis to our chats. But where do these little things come from, and why do people even bother to make them in the first place? Ying Junyi explores that on What's Hot tonight.
If you look at your WeChats, you will find hundreds of the things, from animals to food to cartoon characters. Many people just can't seem to send a WeChat without them.
Sometimes it's easier to communicate by using stickers, and many are quite interesting, some related to popular shows.
I use stickers a lot, usually those from animals and popular buzzwords.
And the stickers that we like are constantly changing. People always get tired of the old ones. That means the designers need to upgrade their work from time to time. But coming up with a new sticker is not a quick or casual matter.
When designing stickers, we often take inspiration from our daily lives. Our designers usually get ideas from entertainment or by browsing both domestic and overseas illustration websites for a while. And since we're in the digital era, we need to use popular buzzwords in our stickers. We select the phrases we use carefully to make sure we're popular with users.
But Pen says once a sticker series receives high public recognition, it can become a brand in itself, allowing the designers to make some serious money by selling derivatives. And seeing a growing use of sticker among the younger generation, many companies like realistic service provider Tosper Consulting have already partnered with designers to introduce their own sticker sets on WeChat.
We want to make a breakthrough in our brand image. As you know, we are a consulting company engaged in the real estate industry, so most of the time we are traditional and professional. However, with the development of this industry, our clients have become more and more diversified. And we want to upgrade our brand to make it more energetic. So we designed some common scenarios which would happen in the real estate industry.
Other famous brands like Pepsi and Starbucks have also taken advantage of the popularity of stickers. And experts say that's an excellent way for brands to stay in touch with their customers.
By launching their own stickers for promotion, companies can better target their consumers and build their brand image. They can make stickers by talking in their targeted consumers' language. Using stickers is an effective way to boost brand loyalty.
There were 1.2 billion monthly active accounts on WeChat as of the end of the third quarter, and you can be sure they were all full of stickers. It's great exposure for brands and advertisers, and for the people who make the little guys. Ying Isis for CGTN Shanghai.
All right, then a quick run through commodity prices. As you might have seen in the market section, there's a lot of red ink today, and that's a bit of a theme throughout our market commentary. It wasn't just equities that were in free fall. The exact same thing was happening in commodities too. Brent crude, for example, down 4.5% at 16.38 GMT, just hovering around $70.20 a barrel. WTI crude falling by an even bigger margin, 5.6% to around 66.91. Spot platinum prices about 0.8% lower to $928 an ounce. It takes the year-to-date decline down to over 13%. On the supply side, back into oil, two fields in southwest Libya have been blockaded, according to S&P Platts, taking some 300,000 barrels a day of output offline. Here's what's coming up next. We'll look at a helping hand for Tunisia's handicraft sector to help it navigate the pandemic.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back. The handicrafts sector in Tunisia is among those that have been badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. The sector does employ over 3,000 artisans in the capital and the inner regions. Hundreds of craft shops and businesses have been entirely shut down in the last 2 years, leaving many of these individuals jobless. Now, authorities in Tunisia have launched a digital platform designed to assist the industry to reach a lot more clients. Alan Chati has that story on Grassroots.
The National Office of Tunisian Handicrafts and the Renewable Foundation in Tunisia have launched the first digital platform, Atlas, for the Tunisian crafts industry. This new digital platform allows the user to navigate through the map of Tunisia to discover an inventory of craft activities in 24 regions, as well as hundreds of towns throughout the North African country.
This project started by studying and analyzing all sources and books which were written in Tunisian handicrafts here and abroad. This bibliography paved the way for collecting all documents concerning the country's traditional handicrafts, craftsmen, and their creations.
This digital platform will provide access to a national archive of artisans. It will also highlight the craft skills and its evolution over the last century.
Experts from the Tourism and Handicraft Department also made field visits to all regions, shops and markets where handicrafts are made and sold to understand the problems and the challenges facing the handicraft sector in Tunisia. This field mapping has guaranteed the success of digital mapping and platform.
The Ministry of Tourism and Handicrafts and the Renewable Philanthropic Foundation have organized the first Arts and Crafts exhibition. This event showcases the latest creations by Tunisian artists and artisans.
This arts and crafts exhibition is very rare in Tunisia. It is the fruit of a collaboration between traditional artisans, artists and designers. The digitalization of handicraft sector will allow local craftsmen to better market their products.
The Atlas platform records craft practices through an evolving database established from scientific data to create categories of trades and know-how in each region in Tunisia. In total, the work of 750 master craftsmen and artisans is now available online. The first digital platform for handicrafts in Tunisia allows local artisans to market and sell their products online. This initiative also pays tribute to the Tunisian handicraft sector and to the country's rich cultural heritage. Abdel Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
All right, then a quick run through the currencies because money never sleeps even during the holidays. If you're interested in chasing some holiday yields, Kenya's government is reopening 3 bonds next month. There's a 5-year, 10-year and a 20-year note on offer. Coupon rates range between 11.7% and 13.4%. The South African rand that started the day a little weaker against American dollar. It did claw back some of those losses a little later on. After flirting with the 16 to the dollar level, the rand did rise to around 15.7364. In contrast, though, the largest cryptocurrencies had a pretty rough time today. Bitcoin down 1.7% to a fraction under $46,000. Ethereum 3% lower to around 3,800. Now, traditionally, this is where we end the program, but not quite. Santa Claus is coming to town. I can't sing that line. Don't ask me to sing. I've got a horrible voice for singing. But as the legend goes, the jolly gift giver of Christmas traditionally would be running around on a flying sleigh pulled by reindeers. But in Berlin, things are a bit different. Colourful motorbikes are the transportation of choice for hundreds of Santas. It's part of an annual festive tradition over there. The Berlin Christmas bike tour took off some 24 years ago. Back then, only a few Santas took part. But now, more and more Berlin motorcycle fans are joining this themed parade. They're raising donations for those in need. Dressed as Santa, angels of Christmas, reindeer, some even come in as Christmas trees. These volunteers cruise through the German capital on decorated motorcycles and scooters to spread a bit of joy as onlookers wait on the parade route. This year, the bikers are visiting the Emergency Accommodation Centre for Women and the Children's Youth Farm. It's a festive ride for a good cause, the true meaning of the holidays. And that certainly does wrap up this edition of Global Business Africa. As always, we'd like to hear your thoughts on the content you've seen on the program in the last hour. Many ways to get your thoughts back to us, all of them on your screens right now. I'm Ramah Nyang in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Thank you for your company in the last hour. Well, today's up next from Washington, D.C.